With the sudden appearance of Species 8472 in the Borg Advance's storyline, it makes sense to research what we know of them since their initial appearance in this lore timeline episode based in Star Trek Online. The species considers life not indigenous, or at least similar to their own dimensions, as impure. As the home dimension is a mass of organic matter in a semi-fluidic state, and all their technology is indifferent from their own biology, their description of what is impure is rather extensive. Starfleet's first encounter with them was technically at the hands of the crew of the USS Voyager in 2373, though as this vessel was stranded in the Delta Quadrant at the time, the wider Federation would not have been alerted to their presence for at least another 3 years when Project Pathfinder established two-way communication with the lone vessel, and a full report could be shared. Species 8472 had been responding to the threat of a Borg invasion into their own realm, and the crew of the USS Voyager had to ally with the collective to drive them back. Shortly after, in 2375, the ship re-encountered the tripod species as they were conducting extensive espionage training by impersonating Starfleet personnel. Voyager's aiding of the Borg had convinced them that Starfleet was a threat to their existence too, despite Captain Janeway's assurances to the contrary. It is speculated that the Undine, while somewhat alleviated, likely moved forwards with their plans to infiltrate the Federation and its neighbouring powers. After all, Starfleet might not be a threat, but what of the Klingons, the Romulans? In 2387, while on Vulcan, Worf reported to have been attacked by a member of Species 8472, however no body was found to confirm his claims. In 2389, a televised baseball game revealed the presence of an Undine infiltrator in the Gorn hegemony's team, seemingly confirming the presence of the species in the Beta Quadrant. Near the end of 2390, the USS Enterprise E returns from a survey into the McAllister C5 Protostellar Nebula with worrying news. Captain Data's log mentions residue of multiple singularities that bear identifiers of fluidic space, but no further signs nor evidence of Species 8472, just footprints of their passing. This led Starfleet to form a task force of scientists, researchers, security consultants and diplomats to search for potential Undine infiltrators. While Starfleet was on guard and searching for the infiltrators, many of its resources were being diverted to Romulan and Cardassian relief efforts in the face of the Dominion War and Hobus supernova. The Klingon Empire, meanwhile, was also dealing with Species 8472. In 2392, Jarod backs Jumpok for leadership of the Empire, and in 2395, Jarod of House Duras was attacked on Radaras by agents that were revealed to be Undine. Their mission had been to dispose of and replace Jarod to have the ear of the new Chancellor, Jumpok. Jarod begins his own campaign to try to uncover the Undine, seeing the beginnings of a major usurping of the Empire, even executing Captain Claw of the IKS Kang, his CO, for refusing to aid in his investigation. Jumpok makes minimal efforts to pursue the IKS Kang, likely repaying a favour for Jarod. In 2399, Jarod returns to Konos with evidence that the Undine have usurped control of the Gorn hegemony, and brings it to his Chancellor. Jumpok uses this to declare war against the Gorn, a war that the Federation strongly disapproves of. The Federation never saw nor had uncovered any further evidence of the Undine involvement, officially. In reality, the captain of the USS Cochrane, a Vulcan called Tavix, was in fact an Undine infiltrator and had been discovered in 2396. The incident was completely classified. In response to the Federation's strong condemnation of the Klingon-Gorn War, the Empire dissolves the Khitomer Accords. In 2400, Ambassador Worf reaches out to his Federation contacts to call for aid in their campaign against the Undine. His appeals were denied, and whether from frustration, disappointment, or duty to his people, he cut ties with the Federation to help the Klingon Empire. In 2401, the House of Konja is almost wiped out when it is revealed that their head had been replaced as an Undine. the survivors of the house flee the Empire. It should be noted that only the head of the house had been confirmed as a member of Species 8472, yet the entire house was penalised. In 2403, the hegemony surrenders to the Klingons and it is absorbed as a vassal state. The Empire then very publicly executes all the captured Undine, seemingly finally proving the veracity of their claims. Alongside these events, Councillor Garak of Cardassia says he encountered a suspected Undine spy, but after interrogation the suspect vanished. And the Department of Temporal Investigations reports an Undine attempt of time travel. Much as the Cochrane incident, these records were highly classified. What becomes apparent very quickly is that there is a resumed push from the Undine to place agents in positions of power and influence many in the Alpha and Beta quadrants. And the Federation had reason to suspect this. Starfleet elected to downplay issues, classify them, and move quietly to root out its usurpers. An understandable approach when dealing with rooting out spies, as they didn't want to tip off their targets. In opposition to this approach, the Klingons pretty much acted on a hunch, and the word of one of their own. Once they had reason, they resorted to full-on war with the Gorn, a war which claimed many and all but enslaved the species, while ultimately proved true with a very public display of execution. The Klingon Empire, nevertheless, put countless innocents in harm's way, and the war ends with a power grab. The fact that the Federation called it the Klingon-Gorn War, even though it was basically an Undine hunt, shows the galactic opinion on the matter clearly. It was seen as a push from a new Chancellor to start a war and seize glory for his rule. Just as Martok before him had the Dominion War, Jimpok too would have his campaign. The Federation could not support the Empire without acknowledging publicly the Undine threat and risking their own investigations. Neither of these approaches is ideal, but nothing about being compromised is. As for the Undine's motivations, well, we can only speculate, but it seems that, understandably, while Captain Janeway convinced the Undine leaders in the Delta Quadrant of the nature of the Federation, whatever ruling caste they have was less willing to accept her at her word. While agents were discovered within Starfleet, their efforts seemed focused on more aggressive species, such as the Klingons and Gorn. Actions from the Federation against the Klingon, and in rooting out its own agents, further pressured Species 8472 into action. In 2409, the Undine have begun ramping up their influence in the Federation, when it was revealed that Ambassador Soketh of Vulcan had been replaced too. We covered this mission early on in our Let's Play of Star Trek Online, as will any Federation player. Suffice to say, it continues a trend of the Federation playing down accusations until it's too late. The Undine's sudden interest in Starfleet also has another third-party factor behind it, one that we will explore further in the story series. Until then, thanks for watching, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video. Who do you think had the better approach dealing with Species 8472? The Klingons were far more effective but had resorted to a hammer-like approach, whereas Starfleet responded with secrecy and trying to play the Undine at their own game. Both powers had been through similar scenarios with the Founders during the Dominion War, so their responses were justified, to an extent. Anyway, thanks for watching again, and goodbye.